Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Angela Bixby. She is the founder of Energy Intuit. She is also the creatrix of the Conscious Psychic Program. She is also an international best-selling author, which we're going to get into. Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, Rachel. Thanks for having me on the Spiritual Spotlight.
Thank you. One of the things that I am fascinated by is the fact that you are a certified psychic medium with the American Federation of Certified Psychics and Mediums. So I want to take it back. Have you always known that you were either a psychic or B, a medium?
No. People ask me that all
Really?
the time. Yes.
As
So
I'm yelling, really?
it's exciting. I hear you.
Right.
I know. I'm excited too. It's something that I didn't realize I had until I landed in psychic school in New York in 2010. So this is a second career for me, right? I'm 55. I went through my whole life being kind of weird, being sensitive. I've learned since that I've been claircognizant and empathic my whole
Okay.
life, right? So I was that one in the family who everybody was always like, why is she crying again? Like, what's going on with her? There was nothing overtly wrong. So I just didn't really realize this,
Yeah.
right? And that comes part and parcel with kind of, as I said, I'm 55, as I was coming up, all of this wasn't as exciting as it's gotten for everybody in
Uh-huh.
the last 10 or 15 years, right? For all
Yeah.
of the reasons, the time we sit in history and our culture, kind of all of that. It's not proven by scientific method, or, you can't arrive at the proof of it by math. So it tends to be dismissed, kind of all of
So
this
true.
other worldly, unseen realm stuff. So it just wasn't on anybody's radar, even though I grew up in California and had cool parents.
Wow.
Nobody knew. And so I started having experiences. I wanted it. I was seeking a lot of this stuff in my late 30s, had enough experiences that I landed in psychic school in 2010, and the rest is history. So I found out I was psychic when I landed in psychic school.
What drew you then to psychic school?
The experiences that I was having, and I was working with a shaman at the time, a
Ooh,
spiritual practitioner. I was part of a Tibetan Buddhist meditation group. I
yeah.
was I was doing a lot. I've always been really passionate about all things metaphysical, and so I was
Mhm.
consuming all of that and doing a lot of meditation, and so these experiences were a lot of bodily sensations,
Yeah.
visions, being woken up in the middle of the night, right? So that it was pretty clear that like this more obvious awakening part of my awakening was happening. And
Yeah.
so I asked this practitioner that I was working with, the shaman at the time, I'm like, what's going on? And she said, you're gonna learn to channel and you're gonna find a psychic school soon. And anyway, so that's what took me there, right? Because I started having the experiences that I
Yeah.
wanted for a while.
And tell us a little bit about, I know you mentioned the kind of the psychic senses that you have. Tell us a little bit about your clair skills.
Yes. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that I am living proof that all of the clairs are teachable, because I did not know that I was sick, that I was psychic. And have since learned that I was naturally claircognizant and empathic, and I had really big dreams, not prophetic, but just huge kind of
Yeah.
metaphoric dreams. And since then, I mean, I have all of the clairs. So I train myself just through practice and
Right.
repetition. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, all of it, clairgustance, clear tasting, clear
Yeah.
smell, all of it. And it's such a passion of mine learning it, and that everybody can learn it, that that's what I spend the bulk of my time doing, is teaching people how to grow out their clairs and their psychic skills and connect to their intuition.
And that is your conscious psychic program, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? And wait, I'm sorry, I'm taking a step back. I respect you so much for saying that all of the clair skills can be learned. Because that's so true. Because I'm like you. I had to teach myself a lot of the
Mhm.
abilities that I have. I did not
Mhm.
come natural. I mean, I had the feeling, the
Mhm.
sensations, and these is
Mhm.
different, but like you, it was a lot of practice.
Mhm. Mhm. It is. And one of the cool things is, once you put the time in, besides the time with the practice, spirit, I use that kind of catch-all phrase for
Yeah.
the unseen realms. As you know, Rachel, spirit meets you there.
Yeah.
And that's what I see happen in all of my students that come into the program, right? It's amazing. Anyway, I won't get ahead of myself. I'll let you ask your next
No,
question.
I just love it. So tell us, for anyone that's listening, tell us about your conscious psychic program.
I thought you'd never ask,
Oh
but
my
thank you. I'm
gosh,
excited. Can you tell I like to talk about
you might be psychic.
it? Yes. So it was born in 2012. I was doing readings and, both psychic and medium readings and doing energy healing. And I was doing my practice part-time. I used to work in
Right.
healthcare, and I left that in 13. But at the time in 2012, I had someone come to me and ask me to help them, ask me to help mentor them. It's interesting. She ended up being quite instrumental in my life, and I can feel her now because she's in spirit now. But she was a mental health counselor who was having major psychic experiences
Yeah.
and had valid concerns about going to peers, right? Because especially at that time, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and still a lot of people would have judged her as crazy. So she came to me to mentor her through her spiritual awakening and her
Yeah.
psychic healing process. Yeah, and as I said, she's since, crossed over a year or so ago, but we had a relationship for a long time, and she actually helped me with the mentoring. She would help with other students too. So
I love
we
it.
just started, I would teach her things and help her go through experiences and do a lot of validation for her.
Yeah.
The conscious psychic program grew quickly from that.
Hmm.
Many people started coming, and the biggest crux of my program, that's where all of the magic is that I run development circles. I run 5 a week now. At the time when I first started it, it would only be a couple a week. And when I started it, it was in person. I took it all online in 2017. So when somebody comes into the Conscious Psychic program, they get a couple one-on-one sessions with
Yeah.
me each month where we're talking about their development. But then I
Hmm.
run these 5 development circles a week, right? And so I've got 20 to 25 people in the program. So
Yeah.
there'll be anywhere from 3 to 10 people on a call,
Yeah.
and we're essentially, reading each other. I lead everybody through a grounded meditation. I'm managing the space and
Of course.
facilitating to
Yeah.
make sure, like, to keep out any weird stuff, right? Taking people to that higher level with meditation and such. And then everybody's just practicing kind of in vivo in this live petri dish. And so what I tell people when I'm talking to them about the program and the value of it is, as you know, the biggest obstacle to psychic development is really our left brain,
So
the
true.
doubt, the lack of confidence, oh, this isn't me, oh, this isn't really happening, right? All of those things, the analysis that
Yeah.
happens. So in the program, I have us escort our ego to the outside to really kind of get in deep. But there's no substitute for being in a group circle. And we're on Zoom audio. We don't even see each other because that can be a distraction visually, right? For
So
people's
true.
process. We really
Yeah.
have to go deep. And they may be sitting there, a new student kind of sitting with a message that's formulating. Maybe they're hearing a wing flapping and sort of seeing a white wing emerge.
Yeah.
And then someone else kind of beats them to it, so to speak, and I'll say, oh, so and so, Jesse, I'm seeing a dove for you, or I'm feeling this feeling of peace. And this new student will be like, oh my gosh, I was experiencing that.
I love
That
it.
right there, when that happens, to me, that's the biggest confidence builder and the fastest hurdle over obstacles to psychic development is
Absolutely.
having the experience
Yeah.
that, and they're thinking, I'm not just psychic because Angela told me I am, and I bought into this program, right? Like I really am. They have those
Yeah.
experiences. So my hallmark's experiential learning, essentially.
Mhm.
I just think that for people to experience their psychic skills is the best way for them to learn and develop and grow.
I love the fact that you actually you have them get into practice. It's and like you said, that helps build their confidence, it helps build their skill set, it helps build everything. And you can also gauge like, okay, this is where you're excelling at, and this may be where you're kind of like you said, because you're managing the energy where you're blocking yourself up a little, and then you
Mhm,
probably give them guidance, and then the next week they're
mhm.
ready to go.
Exactly. Or the next night, or the next circle if it's a Monday when they're 2 on one night.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
I love the fact that you do that. I mean, that's really good
Thank
because
you.
how many intuitive books, psychic books, you can download a course, and then it's like, it's like, yeah, it could be really good foundational skills and, education, but then to say, no, but show me, let's practice, let's
Mhm,
do this. Like
mhm,
you said that you channel. I took a trance mediumship course, and, we
mhm,
had to actually pull in spirit and,
mhm,
and I'm so grateful to you and to other teachers that actually get you into practice, because
mm.
that's where you
Thank
really
you.
build, like you said. I think a lot of it comes down to confidence too, just the imposter syndrome and the
Mhm,
insecurity, and
mhm,
what is all these sensations I'm feeling. And
mhm.
I do want to ask you this, and I'm kind of jumping topics here. Do you feel like right now in this day and age that a lot of people around you, and maybe internationally, are going through this massive awakening?
Yes. Yes, and I would say it's been going on since 12, right?
Yeah,
2012, and it's really ramping up,
it is, isn't
where
it?
it's actually interesting timing. There's one teacher, I'm not sure if you follow her, Diana Cooper.
Oh,
She's
yeah, I have heard of her. Yeah.
yeah, she's an author. I think she's maybe 80, and she's on the socials and things. She's
I love
great.
it.
She's channeled a lot of books, and in one of her channeled books and one of her teachings, and I like to cite the instructor, especially with this
Of
channel
course.
material,
Of
because we
course.
all get different information when we channel.
So true.
So according to her channeling and her guides, 2032 is called the golden age. And so we're sitting right now with this, when this comes out, we will have just come through this gateway that's the halfway point between 2012 and
Right.
2032, the winter solstice of 22. Like it's happening,
Right
in this
now.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's an exciting time. And so I do feel like, to get back to your question, that there's been a huge ramp up.
Yeah.
We know with what went on with the pandemic and being on lockdown, um, that actually helped a lot of people,
I
right? Because
agree.
when a lot of people were in their house with everybody else's energy,
Hmm.
not going to work, and then they went back out into the world, they realized how sensitive we really all are.
It's so
And so
true.
I agree. I feel like just so many people are being
Yeah.
awakened for so many reasons. It's exciting.
It is exciting. And I would
Yeah.
imagine you probably have people flocking to your course. Like it's like, oh, let's go, let's
Yeah.
go, let's go. Because
Yeah.
we need guidance, we need
Mhm.
assistance, and especially like you're a multidimensional healer and worker.
Mhm.
So by
Mhm.
being multidimensional, and like you said, it's not like we have something to prove this. It's a
Mhm.
feeling, it's a knowing of, okay, no, this is
Mhm.
what's really going on. And then for you, you
Mhm.
can facilitate and teach people, no, this is okay. We're okay. We're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I'm so blessed that people are interested in this. And
Yeah.
I really believe deeply and passionately that cultivating our psychic skills is the way to navigate this time of awakening. And of course, we know what that includes. It
Yeah.
includes a lot of things that are falling apart and divisiveness, unfortunately, that we're all going through, which, you and I aren't focusing there. But when you're in a state of not really sure where to
Mhm.
turn, or what is going on, like you just said,
Yeah.
as you tap into your psychic skills, it's going to help you navigate not only what's going on in the 3D world,
Mhm.
but the spiritual experiences you're having. I'm happy to have a session with someone and help them, validate some of their experiences. And I just know that everybody can do this for themselves too. So happy to read for people, and I'm really happy when people are able to check that stuff out themselves with their psychic skills, because it just continues to breed and cultivate empowerment and autonomy and independence at a deep level.
I mean, I would imagine even if somebody doesn't want to be a professional psychic, which I
Right.
would imagine you probably get a lot of those kind of students. Like you
Correct.
said, let me teach you to trust your intuitive abilities, to
Mhm.
trust that things that are unseen that will give you such divine guidance and kind of show you where you're at on your path. Like even that is so valuable. Like I'm somebody, I run a doctor's office. So being intuitive and having my gifts open, I'm able to tell, okay, this patient, something's going on. This staff member, something's going on, and I would imagine you're probably also seeing that with your own clients.
Exactly. And you hit on something really, yeah, interesting, in that about 85-90% of the members of the conscious psychic program are not going on to be
I
professional
love
psychics and
that.
mediums. Some are, but I've got a physician in, a number of, PhD psychologists.
Love that.
A couple of years ago, I had someone who's a forensic psychologist for, high level law enforcement, right? Like really interesting. So it attracts a lot of healers, a
Absolutely.
lot of people that are nurses, that
Mhm.
are clinicians, etc. And they can kind of finally develop this and then use it in their practices, or use it in how they move through the world and their
Right.
work, even in business and things like that, and any kind of business. If you can kind of take that time to cultivate your psychic skills, it's just another set of tools to have in your toolbox for any decisions you're making in life, or any trying to figure out relationships, as you mentioned, with patients or coworkers and such. And in the healthcare realm especially, you know, because of how things are going, I imagine it can shortcut sometimes, shortcut processes, healing processes sometimes. Like if you get a hit that a patient, maybe needs a certain lab that's off
Yeah.
the doctor's radar,
Yeah.
right? Perhaps
Absolutely.
you can circumvent the healing process by saying, "Hey doc, I'm having a gut feeling about XYZ,"
So true.
so it's applicable everywhere.
It really is. And I'll say how I utilize my intuitive abilities in the office is honestly to set the energy and to set kind of the tone of,
Beautiful.
the office. Like I'll do clearings of the office. I bring
Oh,
in,
nice.
energetic healings because like you said, right now healthcare is very stressful.
Mhm.
People have a loss of control and it's been stressful. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Mhm.
And but no,
Mhm.
I really feel like, and I'm gonna ask you this, like, I feel like the universe wants me at this place right now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost
Yeah.
like I need to be where I'm at right now. Cause sometimes I'm like, oh, I should be doing something else, something else. But I'm like, no, I really love where I work.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, and you know it, you feel it down
You
deep,
feel it.
right?
I feel it down to
Yeah.
my
It's a
core.
call.
It's part
Yeah.
of
And it's,
my, like you said, like you're saying, it's part of my spiritual calling. Like,
mhm.
and when it's time to go, it'll be time to go. But right now, and I actually just said this to my sister on the way home. I always call my sister on the way home. I'm like, I just know I'm supposed to be there longer,
Oh,
you know?
that's beautiful. I love that.
But it's
Yes.
interesting because I'm like, oh, I want to be a spiritual entrepreneur, and I can do it on the side. It's fine. My business will grow the way it's supposed to grow. You know?
Hmm.
So I
The
do want
world,
to. Good.
yeah, I was just going to comment on that. The world in all industries really, they need the sensitives that are there. It's beautiful that you clear the space and clear the
Yes.
office. You are setting the table so nicely energetically for the patients that come through for healing. I imagine you guys are a very busy practice. It's for all the reasons, and especially because of the energetic work that you're doing. So bravo to you.
I will say you'll find this amusing. I actually have sage spray in my office. I
Mhm.
have uncrossing oil for when we have the negative experiences. I have
Mhm.
fluorite. I have so many
Mhm.
crystals, and then I actually have my door gridded with black tourmaline. So
Beautiful.
I
Good
am
job.
prepared.
Doing all the things I tell my students to do.
So with telling your students, do you teach them how to kind of, because they are more sensitive, how to protect themselves
Mhm.
energetically and how to shift the energy? Do you teach your students that as well?
Yes, I call it energy hygiene, and it's critical for all
Love
of
that.
us. It's critical for all of us.
It's almost
It
like
really
the
is.
basics of
Mhm.
our day-to-day living. That's
Mhm.
part of
Mhm.
your hygiene. Like you get up, you brush your teeth, you
Mhm.
slap on your protection.
Yes, you ground, you center, you shield, send stuff away if it's not yours. Yeah. Yeah, my sons have grown up with it. They know how to ground.
I love that.
When they have something going on in their life, and they call me, they're on their own in their
Yeah,
20s. They call me and say, "Mom, I'm having this challenge." And yes, I've already grounded and shielded it before I called you. I'm like, okay, good.
good job.
Yeah.
My younger son, he's 13. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Your third eye chakra healing powers." I'm like, "Yes." And but then I know that it's working because he'll go to school and I'll say, "Mom, this person's chakras were off." So something's clicking in.
Wonderful.
Something's clicking in.
Excellent. Way to go, Mom.
So tell me a little bit about your international best-selling book, The Intuitive Speaking Her.
Speaking her truth.
Speaking her truth. I knew I was missing a word. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, no, it's my it was I was like, wait, I have notes here, guys. And I'm like, this isn't right. I know it's not right. Truth is right there. Intuitive speaking her truth. This is located on
Beautiful.
Amazon for anyone that's
Yes.
looking to purchase. But please tell us about your book, your chapter in the book.
Yes, yes, yes. Excuse me. So I was fortunate enough to be part of a collaborative with 23 other women in this book. And the whole book's every chapter is about intuition. And so we got to basically tell a story in a chapter of the book. It was really fun to do. And so the chapter that I chose, excuse me, the topic I chose to talk about in the chapter is about dreaming and how to use your
Oh,
dreams as a way to get answers to things that we're emotionally close to. So I'll step back for a second.
sure.
One of the things in the development process that can be hardest is to read ourselves or those people that we're really close to.
So true. So
And
true.
so it's so critical that we assume an emotional bias and we, perhaps have a colleague read for us and
Yes.
so it can be a long process for some of us, right? To really
Yeah.
be able to read ourselves in a way it's an unbiased way because we want things to turn out a certain way. We love the people we're checking in on, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so I found that dream work can be the best way to do that. And I have
Mm.
two really tangible examples that I talk about in the
Yeah.
book. So really just talking about how you can go to sleep and ask a question and then you get the answer in your dreams and you wake up and you take action and it can shift things.
Oh, I
So
love
that's
that.
what my chapter's about. And I'm in great company, like I said, with women with all different types of stories about how their
Uh-huh.
intuition saved their life and help them with different things.
I love that. So so you do still do readings, correct?
I do.
So, for
Yes.
anyone that is looking to book a reading with you, what
Mhm.
would you say is your approach to a psychic or mediumship reading?
Great question, Rachel. I actually have guidelines on my website that I insist they read before they have a session. So I'm question and answer based. I'm different than some psychics and mediums, even with mediumship. So I'm not someone, we'll go to the medium side first. When
Sure.
I'm doing a mediumship reading or when I'm connecting to a dead person in session with a client, I do my best to not let everybody come in, right? So a lot of people go to mediums and they're very accustomed to, do I have
The
anyone
whole
around me? Do you see
team.
anyone around me? And I say, I don't do it that way. I call them in,
I love
right? And I
that.
do that just to keep the energy clear.
Yeah.
And we know, if you are sort of open all the time and connecting to that energy all the time, especially dead people, it's not necessarily
Mhm,
healthy for us, right?
mhm,
Which is why I do it the way I do. So I have people bring 5 to 8 questions for a half hour, 10 to 15 for an hour. And really, the way that I see it is I'm there to sort of get them the information that they want to get from spirit. I'm
mhm.
I'm being a translator from spirit to them. So sometimes it's direct channeling, a lot of times it's answers to the questions.
Sure.
I specialize in details. So if someone's looking at different job opportunities and things, um, I'll be able to get into the details with them and looking at all the different possibilities of each position, things like that. What's really going to satisfy their soul? What's going to, maybe give them
Mhm.
more money, but not this kind of reward. So, yeah, it's very conversational and dynamic the way that I read. So people bring questions, and that's really the launching
Sure.
point, and we have a conversation, and they get their questions answered.
I love that because I feel like sometimes when you go into a reading and it's like a free for all, you may not get the answers to the true questions you have within your heart that you really
Hmm.
want answered. And you're like, oh, whatever, you want to just
Hmm.
channel, because how many times,
Hmm.
I mean, I love getting readings. So I'm always like, oh, whatever's my best and highest good. But I know there's a reason why I booked an appointment.
Yes, yes. And the other style, it's not my style, is
Yeah,
beautiful.
it is. It is.
But I say that to people too. I say, if we did it the other way, I might sit here for longer and pull in your soul's purpose and
Yeah.
pull in Aunt Flo. And you may be sitting there thinking, this isn't why I came here. I don't want to spend this money and time doing this. So yeah, very targeted and kind of directed.
Right. I know I've had readings where my grandfather will come in and I love him, but I really didn't have a relationship with them. So it's like,
Mhm.
thanks.
Yeah, you're like, thanks. Okay. On to
We'll
my
move
list of
on.
why I came here.
Move on. Move on. Move on. I do want to ask you this. Have your abilities to help people it's a convoluted question. So I want to make sure I say it correctly.
Mhm.
How have your abilities to help people changed over time as your own wisdom and gifts have increased?
Exponentially is the short answer. So I have, I still have really huge personal spiritual experiences that just continue to evolve, right? So to answer the question, one of the ways to answer it, right, is we talked about how I figured out I was psychic in 2010,
Sure.
right? That's 12 years ago. And so I didn't necessarily see a lot when I started.
Yeah.
In some of my first sessions with clients, I would say I actually don't see a lot. I see in black and white and shades of gray with my clairvoyance, when I see.
Yeah.
And so now I do see all the time. And so I went from eyes closed, seeing black and white shades of gray and pretty
Yeah.
rudimentary, and a lot of knowing, and the other clairs came in with it, the
Right.
knowing and the empathy. And now, I mean, I went to seeing with like eyes open holograms, and I can see like a bunch of dimensions at once and a bunch of different screens at once, right? So it's just like exploded exponentially and keeps evolving.
Wow.
And so all of my clairs have just like bulked out basically.
That's amazing.
Came in and then bulked out and developed. And that's what I see with my students too, happens with them. It's amazing. It's one of the main ways, and this came to mind when you were asking about
Mhm.
sessions with me, if someone has a
Sure.
reading with me, one of the other terms that I use besides experiential learning is I teach people to be directive with this, right?
Okay.
And so when we ask questions, it generates psychic responses. People can try this. Ask questions, set sacred space, make sure you're grounded and protected, and then pose a question and sort of see what comes in.
Yeah.
People want to be ready to accept whatever comes in. So maybe it's a twinge in your right elbow, and that's the message, right? If you're at a more basic level at the
Sure.
moment. But so we can ask questions about all different things that are going on in our life, and that's really how I teach. That's one of the things that blows people's minds the most is they might not see, and then they intend that they're going to see, and they ask them questions and ask for it to be put up on their screen,
Mhm.
and they show up at the next circle and they're seeing, and they're like, oh my gosh, you can sort of direct
Yeah.
this and not just sit back passively and wait for it to come to you or wait for it to open up. So yeah, I'm real kind of, I get people getting in there with their skills and kind of pushing it, to the limit so that they can have more of it. So
I love that. What would you want people to know about your reading style?
it's warm, nurturing, supportive. I'm blessed I used to work in corporate America. I worked in healthcare, very conservative industry. So got a lot of business acumen, and people have always felt comfortable with me, kind of the empath thing, right? Usually
Yeah.
when we're empaths, people are like, oh, you're nice to talk to. I feel good when I talk to you, that presence healing thing.
Yeah.
But really it's nurturing. And so I've attracted over the years a lot of first time people to a
Oh,
psychic or medium reading. It's a real honor, right? Because it
yeah.
can be kind of scary.
For
And so
sure.
I'm very nurturing, and people report feeling like they felt kind of held in the
Yeah.
session, so a real nurturing kind of mom-like style is what I would say.
I love that. I love that.
Thank
That's a
you.
beautiful, I mean, even just the way that you kind of speak, it's very warm and friendly and it's very sweet.
Thank you.
Um, one thing I do want to know, if anyone wants to join the Conscious Psychic program, is it always running or is it something that's open at certain times of the year?
Right now, it's always open,
Okay,
so people are enrolling at all different times,
perfect.
and so there's a sales page on my website,
Okay.
and you can read lots of things about it and lots of things about my experiences that really bring a lot of ballast to the process in terms of my authority and wisdom that I can share with people. So yes, they can enroll at any time at this point, and I like that because I have people that'll stay in for a number of
Mhm.
years, and they
Mhm.
love it. And then people are coming in at all different times, and
Mhm.
I'm going to step back for a second. What I know of education is in a traditional classroom, right? There's this concept that the classroom is held to the lowest common denominator, right? So if everybody in the class hasn't learned an aspect of math, we might not be able to go on until, if you
Right.
haven't learned addition, we might not be able to go on until multiplication. And so
Right.
everyone's kind of held back to that. In this process, I find it inversely proportional. So like the reverse is true. It's almost like people that are really beginners or intermediate but not maybe having all their clairs open,
Yeah.
they really they go big fast, right? It's kind of the opposite of that. So
Yeah.
people tend to rise to the students that are a little bit more advanced, and so it's really neat to have people coming in all throughout the year and throughout each month. Everybody knows what it's like to be new in the program, and so this is just something that happens. Everybody gets excited when somebody new is there, and people just kind of dive right in, and then they're with people that have been in for 2 months and two
Yeah.
years and yeah, so that's what it's like.
That's really good because like you said, when people are new coming in, you almost have the veterans that are cheering them along, and then it helps activate and accelerate their gifts.
Exactly. And when they're sitting in a development circle, some of the things that come out of this program that really they're hard to explain, not only all that we talked about already, but everybody is sort of keyed into different parts of metaphysical and spiritual stuff. And so when you're hearing these different spirit guides, and when you're hearing people give feedback to their peers on what their
Mhm.
peers are reading for them, you learn exponentially from your peers also.
For
And I
sure.
do run every circle, so I facilitate every circle,
Yeah.
but it's a really beautiful process because you end up learning a lot more about things that you never even thought you would when you come in.
I would imagine that it's almost like you are pulling it's because we all have send out our cellular kind of energetic beeps and pulses to other souls. I would imagine you're probably pulling together people that are in the same soul groups.
Probably.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, and we see that like there's often a theme of ancient Egypt, right? Because I'm pretty tied to ancient Egypt, and yeah, so there will be different themes like that come in, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're a starseed. There are a lot of them here. Oh yes, you're here to bring Christ consciousness to the planet. Yep, lots of us here. Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
that is amazing. And if anyone wants to book a session with you, is the best way is to go to your website, which I'll make sure to link up in this interview.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. And then I do have a question. We're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. What would you say to anyone that is kind of maybe going through, like you said, going through the spiritual awakening? Any piece of advice or any words of wisdom that you can give to somebody that's maybe starting to go through this process?
Keep the faith and stay grounded as best you can. grounding can help and go a long way, and really honor those needs to rest and hydrate. And it tends to go in waves. And so even if someone feels like they're in a really dark place for some
Yeah.
time, they're going to come through it. And
Yeah.
find a good mentor if you can, or someone that does have experience with spiritual awakening that you can talk to, because that can really help a lot. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're worried about symptoms they're having, experiences
Aw.
they're having. Yeah, and it's such an honor to say, hey, this is normal. Like, let me
Yeah.
tell you how many people are going through this on the planet, and they're so relieved. So I would just offer that to anyone going through this that isn't aware that it's pretty normal right now. And every spiritual awakening looks different, and
This is
so
true.
really just honor yourself, ground, and get your rest. You'll come through it and keep the faith.
And there is nothing wrong with self-care. Self-care is not selfish. When you are
Correct.
going through this spiritual awakening, it takes a lot of energy.
Hmm.
And you can feel like you have flu-like symptoms, and they call them
Hmm.
ascension symptoms and whatnot. And it's
Hmm.
always like drink water, rest, rest, rest. But then I think sometimes we feel guilty because we're this hustle bustle kind of culture. So it's hard to be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, what I'm seeing though with this whole spiritual awakening process, which I'm sure you're experiencing
Yeah,
this too, right, with what you do, is that it affects all areas of your life. And
so
so it's like
true.
it's I think sometimes when people are starting to go through it, they sort of think maybe they do have choice, but they think maybe they can just kind of minimize it, or that it won't affect all areas of their life. And so if they find things happening like friends falling away,
Yeah,
they'll say like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with me? They don't know that some of those things are really normal for a
yeah.
spiritual awakening process. So
I
yeah.
always love, and then maybe I'm a little odd, but it's kind of like when you're up leveling and things
Mhm,
transform and things shift.
mhm,
I kind of enjoy that process. I mean, I've had hard times, don't get me wrong, and I look back and
mhm,
I'm like, oh, that really hurt, but I'm
mhm.
grateful to have those experiences. And now when I look back, I'm like, yeah, all these things had to fall away. I had to shift to elevate.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. I really enjoy the process. Now that I know what's going on, yeah, I
Now
really
that we
enjoy
know
it. It's
exactly.
exciting. Yeah.
It's like I yeah, like sometimes I'm like, well, but then I trust in I surrender to the universe, and I trust in the process, and I know that my guides, my team have my back, and that no
Mhm.
matter what, I will be okay.
Excellent. So
Anything
well
else you
said.
want to share before I wrap up this interview?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's a joy to talk to you. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been fun, Rachel.
It was a joy to speak with you so much. I will make sure to link how to get into your classes, how to order the book, everything, all things Angela. And it was a it was a pleasure so much to meet with you today. And thank you everyone for listening to the Spiritual Spotlight series. Guys, I'm trying to end it. Rachel's having a problem. Minimize, maximize. There we go. Sorry.